Online revenue models. This is an area we get, I mean, people ask us about almost the most. Every time we do a seminar, and this is extremely popular. A couple of years ago, and not that long ago, whenever we said we were working in the online space, the short form video space, everyone, the first question they ask is like, oh, where's the money? And I think that conversation has moved on a little bit because people realize the money is there. They're just sometimes not sure how to exactly structure it because it's not as linear as some of the other media models because there are so many ways in which you can earn money. So I'm going to cover a couple of key things around it. Now, I am aware a lot of you are interested in episodic content, which is a very different type of content for a lot of the online platforms, but there are a number of you who are also interested in ongoing content and how you build revenue models around that. So I'll cover both. I want to start off by firstly by saying, like, the typical creator journey or the typical journey for most people who jump on YouTube or on any platform is that, they have something they want to do, whether it's they want to teach guitar lessons or have a web series or, be a vlogger. And their first thought is, I'm going to create really good content and I'm going to earn a bunch of ad revenue and it's going to be great. I'm going to use that as a sort of bit of inertia to start doing more things. So the typical journey is you start creating content, you start earning a little bit of revenue and you keep creating more and more content in order to get more revenue from the ad side of things. But what effectively happens is that even though you're producing a ton of content and putting a ton of effort into it, the ad revenue, while going up, is fairly lumpy. And the reason for that is it depends on so many things. I mentioned this in the last couple of days. Ad revenue isn't just something that you can depend on to be a specific way all the time, right? It changes due to economic factors, platform factors, advertising factors, global factors, all sorts of things change the ad revenue, and it's very lumpy. You ask any creator, very, 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 very few of them actually earn their proper money from the ad system, right? And even like YouTube say, the ad system is a privilege, it's not a right. It just happens to be there and you can earn money from it, but it is something you've got to be really careful if you want to build a sustainable revenue model on, because like I said, it is so lumpy. So most great creators, most people in the online space have diversified how they earn revenue, and they do it usually over a couple of different ways. Now, like I said, still 99% of people who jump online still do this, and they keep creating content and they keep getting this ad cycle, and it gets the end of the year and they haven't earned very much and they complain about it. But what you've got to really start thinking about, well, how can I actually diversify that out to make it much more stable? This is something we've been talking about in the last couple of days. It's particularly around that aspect of community. And I'm sure Caitlin will talk, I'm sure Erin was going to talk more about this when we bring her up here. But audiences are going to make or break your channel, how good your audience is, right? It's not so much, you don't have a captive audience anymore as such, right? It's not like a TV network, which already has a big following and you're just putting content on there. The audience is available to you. You have to engage with them, though. You have to build that. You have to, create your own audience. So you've got to understand that any content you put out there, the success of it's going to be dependent on how good your audience is and how loyal they are to you. So it's not about views anymore. It's about how engaged the audience is. If you have an engaged audience, there's a tremendous amount of value in that. And even a very small, very loyal audience can generate a lot of value. And the misconception is that you have to have millions of subscribers and millions of views in order to earn a lot of money or earn any money. That is not true. There's a creator we know from his first 3,000 subscribers, he was earning around $10,000 a month based on his mix of different revenue sources, right? So you can definitely earn it from a small amount of people. You just got to be smart about how you do it. Okay, so the way revenue is typically works on YouTube, there are two sources. There's platform specific, and that's for YouTube or any system you use out there. Those are models that are built into the platform. And then there's alternative. Those are external to the platform, right? Both make up how you earn money, but some come, like I said, directly from the system you're working on, and some come from external things like brand deals and so forth. Just as a general guide, you can have a look at how the revenue sources work. So for example, on YouTube, we have strictly internal ones like advertising, super chat, stickers, which is a live function. And then you start crossing over. Merch and membership are two you can do either internally or externally. And then you go completely externally, such as brand deals and your own IP or your own products. Now, the way we distinguish this and why you want to be careful about how you mix them up is this concept of called friction. Basically, a friction point is something that stops someone from doing something, right? So any system that's built internally, I mean within YouTube, is going to make it much easier for the person to do it. So advertising is built in. Super chat stickers, that's built into it, right? Merch shelves are built into YouTube, so it's easy to transact. But when you have to make somebody leave the platform or do something else, then it becomes a little bit harder. So we always look at this level of friction. So when determining which of these revenue models are working for you, think about what type of friction you're putting into it, which will stop somebody from transacting, right? Also, just because a revenue model, a revenue source is built into the system doesn't mean it's easy, because even within YouTube or other platforms, there are certain areas or categories or specifications you've got to meet at least to earn or start earning revenue in these areas, such as a minimum subscriber amount or view time before they're unlocked. And that's basically just to maintain a certain level of quality on these platforms. Okay, so I'm going to run through a couple of common sources of revenue. I'm going to talk about them briefly. Not all will apply to everyone, but these are the ones that typically come up. And I'll show you the basic way in which we determine whether or not it's useful to have, okay? So the first thing we do is just list all the revenue sources available to any particular creator. Like I said, everyone will be a bit different, but here are some of the popular ones. The first one is affiliate programs. That is basically if you're talking about something, or if you have a product or you're referring to something, you can basically do a deal with that company and put a link in your video. People will click on it, and if they buy it, you get a percentage of that. And that's called an affiliate link, and you earn a percentage of that. Now, that can vary from a tiny amount of money if you're selling like hardware, like a camera, for example, up to quite a bit if you're doing something like software or memberships to a product. So they can be very good. They can be very useful. Something you should definitely consider, especially if you're talking about products or you're featuring your products in your videos. You can build your own products. This is a much more tricky one. Such as ebooks or online courses. They have extremely good returns, but they are very complex to set up and to sell as well. Brand deals, which is one of the most common areas, also a very good earner if you can structure them correctly, and we'll talk about those in a little while. Consulting, now, I put consulting in here because it could be consulting or it could be lessons. It's basically something you personally can offer the viewer. So, we've had for example, English-based language YouTubers or language YouTubers in general. They have their YouTube site, they promote their content, people are very engaged, but then they can pay them individually for a Skype lesson. You got things like Patreon or paid membership. Membership is internal to YouTube. Patreon is a membership system, but is external to YouTube. People can pay you monthly or per video if they're very loyal to you, and basically, you give them extra perks such as behind the scenes or special conversations or a whole bunch of things you can do. But basically, you create a much more engaged, close community through memberships. Live speaking, which basically you're leveraging your channel and your fame to go onto stage and expand it even more. Typically not paid that much, but it does expand the brand a lot. Super chat and super stickers is a function of going live. Basically, a super chat is that if you do a live video, people can bid to have their questions noted higher or come up more, so you will pay attention to that, and you can do a shout out or answer them specifically for that, and that can vary from $2 to I think $500 per mention. MCNs, these are called multi-channel networks. It's a relic of an older YouTube. Basically, these are bigger networks that consolidated a lot of small YouTubers and found better advertising rates, for example, and offered you more services. Now, they're not so much used as much anymore because they've fallen out of fashion because a lot of YouTubers got stuck in these terrible contracts with them. We don't really find them that useful. If you're getting an amazing deal with them, you might want to join one, but generally we don't recommend it. But there's still a couple out there that might be okay, but I would be very careful with multi-channel networks. Merchandise, selling your own merchandise, such as hats, shirts, cups, pretty straightforward. Something as simple as a PayPal donate link so people can just donate to their favorite creators. That's nice and easy. Grants is actually a good one and very relevant for this audience. In Australia and New Zealand, we're really lucky that we can get grants from the government to do initiatives online, for example. It's really rare. Like I talked to my counterparts in the US and they can't believe it. But yeah, it's one source of revenue, but funding that helps you do some really great stuff. So I would definitely look at all the options available to you, because especially Screen Queensland and the screen bodies around Australia are making a big effort to get more online content happening and more creators involved in online content. So definitely check out the grants. Media crossovers, as you get more advanced, you can cross over into TV or via bigger online streaming platforms. Licensing, a lot of your B-roll footage can be licensed to a lot of aggregators. And then there's YouTube advertising, which I talked about initially, which is basically the ad money you get from having ads on your videos. Okay, so what we first like to do is just list all the types of content that we're going to have on our channel, and also all the options available for revenues, such as the ones I explained to you just then. Then what we do is put a list, very simply, of effort to reward, okay? Easy, medium, hard, and we list them out, right? And that gives us a basic understanding of, well, okay, what's available to us and what level of effort am I really having to put in to what reward can I really get? And from there, you just identify which of them make the most sense to start with. And it's really as simple as that. What we find most people do is they overthink it, or they fixate on one or two things, and it ends up not doing very well for them. And then they got to start again and they get disheartened. So the first thing I do is just list all the revenue options out, list, like I said, effort to reward, then identify maybe a couple of them you might be interested in. Now, this is a very simplified version. I'm sorry, it's because of time. We don't have enough time to go into it in the detail we usually do. When we look at planning that out, we look at doing it in stages, right? Every creator is different, but ideally you want to stage out how you want to earn revenue. Now, if you want to do it long term, if you want to earn revenue in the long term as a YouTuber or someone in the online game, basically online is going to be your career, you want to stage it out to know how you're going to build that up. And we usually do it over 3 levels, with level 1 being small amounts of money, things that are easy to undertake, not much upkeep. Level 2 being larger amounts of money, more planning required, more commitment required. Level 3 being valuable ongoing revenue, time and investments required, and a high level of commitment is required. So level 1 might be YouTube ads, right? Nice and simple, you put them on, they play in the background, not much money, but you don't have to do much around that. Level 2 might be, I'm going to start to do brand deals, and I might apply for some grants. And level 3 is, well, I'm going to start developing my own IP and my own product. So if you were earning, just suppose you had a channel on woodworking, right? Level 1 might be, well, I'm going to put ads around my woodworking content. Level 2, I'm going to do brand deals with maybe a furniture polish company and do maybe just that's the number 2. And number 3, my own product is like, well, I'm going to put a masterclass up on how to make the best door possible. 5 hours of lessons. People can pay me $10 a month or $150 for the whole class, and you sell that based on the loyalty of your audience as well. So the planning of that helps you stage it out rather than trying to do too many things at once or spreading your focus too thinly. And it's worked for small YouTubers, it's worked for some mega stars out there. But it is all about staging it out so you can actually manage how you do it. Like I said, we go into a lot more detail of this in more detailed courses, but this is the course structure, and just doing this will help you understand what the options are and when you should basically be tackling them. Basically, the more you do that, the more likely you are to run a sustainable business, the more likely you are to make this a career and earn some good money from it. Now, quite a few of you were saying, but what about limited content models? So basically, a limited content model is, I want to put up a web series, I want to put up only 10 episodes of content and nothing else. There are a couple of things around that. And I've said this earlier on in the week, is that you've got to stop thinking about it from the point of view of what you want to do so much as what the audience is going to expect. Yes, absolutely, it's based on what you're able to do, but the revenue model is completely based on what the audience is going to want. So typically, most online platforms, the audiences there want ongoing content to some extent. And I showed you FilmRide, for example. They do a web series, they do short films, but their ongoing content is a lot of how-to, a lot of help, podcasts, all sorts of stuff to keep people engaged. And that fills out the need the audience wants to continue to engage and enjoy the content from these creators. So limited content means limited revenue opportunities. So if you're only going to put out a web series, you're going to be limited in terms of what you're going to do. So even if you do qualify for YouTube ad spend, for example, you'll only have 10 videos there, and it'll have to depend on people constantly coming in to watch that. So it's never going to be much money, because you've got to think about the audience as well, because remember, they're not captive to start with. They don't just turn up to watch your content. You've got to build and engage with them to earn money in the long term. And the successful YouTubers that are just absolutely killing it have that understanding of their audience, what they're after, and how much content they can provide. And look, we have creators that put out, 5 or 6 bits of content in a year, but they still do very well. But they know how to feed the audience and how to engage with the audience, and they've built up a good body of content around that. So you've got to think carefully about what the audience wants. Also, you've got to think about it more as an entrepreneurial model rather than a traditional model. It's not like a job with a producer and network. You give them a salary, you can build your way up. Think about it more in an entrepreneurial sense. You build the audience, you build how you want to structure your content and how you want to roll it out, but you can also build what revenue models are open to you and work on those. Now, if you're not up for that and you think that's too much effort, rethink how you're going to put your content online, because if you want to earn serious money, you've got to be able to understand how brand deals work. You've got to understand how things like building on products work, or things like how the advertising system works as well, because so much is open to you. So you've got to come up with what you want to do yourself. It's not going to be a purely linear one where everything sort of comes to you in a logical progression, right? So that's a very important thing to do. Plus, you have to manage your expectations. So if, for example, you do have a limited series, maybe it's not about earning revenue from that. Maybe the limited series is there in order to promote it, get a good audience, and then take that and get it to a network or pitch it to, a VOD or something like that. You have to manage expectations. Don't think just because I'm going to have content out there, it's going to earn me a lot of money. If you want to earn money online, it does take a serious amount of effort, but it can absolutely pay off. I have creators we work with who are now earning $75,000 to $80,000 per video for a brand placement, and that's just like 30 seconds to a minute, right? So that took work to get to that point, but they're able to get to that point. And don't forget, a lot of these brands are US based, so they're paying in US dollars, which is pretty amazing at the moment for Australian creators. So you can definitely get there, but you have to understand how that all things fit together. Plus, you've got to realize it's more of a long-term game with an ongoing engagement model. Whereas for limited content, you're going to have limited opportunities for revenue generation, right? So think about your expectations and how you want to leverage that out. Now, I want to get on to chatting with Erin. So what I might do, Caitlin, could you bring Erin on?
There we go. Yeah. She's coming in.
Awesome.
Hello. How are you? How is everyone? Good.
I can't see the chat that I'm presenting, and hopefully everyone's excited.
They are.
So maybe we'll just start, but do you want to explain sort of what your channel's about?
Yeah. So I have a channel that's predominantly about mindset, business, and personal development. So I do a lot of content around habits, routines, rituals, just improving yourself, really for the purpose of building a business, building a personal brand, because when it comes to building a business, a lot of it is mindset, a lot of it is your own personal development, to stick to it when the numbers aren't showing or when it gets a little tough. So really my channel is for female entrepreneurs starting an online business, but really diving deep into the mindset and the personal development behind that.
And obviously as a YouTuber, content creator online, how important is the entrepreneurial mindset to a YouTube creator if they want to have long-term success with revenue models?
With revenue models, extremely, extremely important, because you do have to be really creative, especially because with YouTube, the audience is, for most people, quite slow growing. It's not like putting one video out, you're going to have those 100,000 subscribers there straight away where the AdSense is going to be enough for you to support yourself. And I, like you, have had many examples of clients of my own that have had very small audiences and been really creative with the way that they monetize themselves and been able to make a living from just having that really small audience. So really, it's about having that entrepreneurial mindset, but just being open and creative with looking for opportunities. Like you've given so many great examples there, different ways that they can monetize. But I think so many, especially people who are ultra creative in, I work with a lot of like musicians and artists in that sense as well. And they just get very stuck in, it's just about performing or it's just about the art. But the ones that actually do get really creative and diversify their income and try different methods of, creating revenue are the ones that usually are the most successful right from the very beginning.
I think a lot of people, as online video is becoming so extremely popular, have looked at it as, it's just another aspect of how traditional media works, it's just another avenue to get it out there, whereas it is its own beast and it requires its own mindset.
Absolutely.
And it works in a completely different way. So yes, they're all in the entertainment space, but they all work very differently.
For sure.
Yeah. And how have you found in terms of like building out different revenue models? Like what do you think is a good combination for you, for example?
So at the moment, I have quite a few. I'm extremely multi-passionate as well, which, it's a devil and a benefit. But basically at the moment, I do a lot of mentoring, just very similar to for everyone, for how this has been run and structured. I did a call with my class exactly like this yesterday, basically focusing on one particular topic and taking a group through a 4-week, 8-week program, whatever it may be, teaching them the skills that they need, again, for whatever area of business we're working on. So that's like the core thing. And then I also do the one-on-one aspect of that as well. So one-on-one coaching. I have my membership, and then more on the, I guess you could say, YouTube side of things. I have in the past, and I'm now just starting to again work with brands, sponsorship brands, and then obviously the advertising itself. And then a big one for me that I was going to be focusing on this year was live events. I've done live events in the past and a lot of online events. That's another really great revenue model, like online workshops, online events, online classes, just individual classes. If you've got a skill to monetize, you can monetize it. But yeah, doing a lot of sort of online classes and online events. And then the next big step for me will be the offline events, but that's paused for now.
So it is important you mix it and have a couple of different options. You can't really depend on one specific one, can you?
Well, absolutely. And this is just a perfect example of why it's so important to diversify, because you just don't know it's going to happen. It's such a temperamental environment being online. And for me, like my big thing this year was that I was going to be doing events, and, in the flash of an eye, that was just completely just gone. It couldn't happen. And that was outside of my control. So, and there's been circumstances in the past where, things have changed within people's particular industries. One of my clients is a commercial pilot who actually does pretty much consulting to help other people get their commercial pilot license faster. And then obviously that for her at the moment is, she just can't run her business in that way. So then her diversifying and doing more brand deals on YouTube, because she has quite a big YouTube channel as well, was a good thing. She had those other options there when just one business wasn't able to go forward at that time. So I think diversifying is important anyway, because lots of YouTubers work with brands at the moment and many brands are pulling out of those deals. So I think that it's important to experiment. Not every one of those revenue models is going to work for everyone. It's going to depend on the type of content you create, what you actually enjoy to do. But I do think exploring at least a few different options is the best way.
Great. And you mentioned obviously that like flexibility is super important, that ability to adapt is super important. We've got a lot of creators who we've seen are just very fixated on one or two different things, and they just stay that way no matter what the environment's doing. They keep fixating that, but you have to adapt, don't you? It's a moving environment. It's a very dynamic environment.
Yeah, and there's always new options. Like obviously when I started my business, so I started YouTube in 2014 and then my business in 2017, these things like the super chat and all of that wasn't available. There's always new ways to monetize, and you just need to be creative. Like it's not to say that you need to do all of them. That's the fastest way to burn out that I can think of, trying to, getting that shiny object syndrome and constantly putting your effort into different things rather than trying to master a few. But be open, be available, see what's out there, test different things, and you will find a few that just work for you and work really well.
Cool. Excellent. Now, what I might do, Caitlin, is I want to keep Erin here. If Erin, you happen to, people might have specific questions.
Yeah, of course. We actually do have one specifically for Erin.
Great.
If I can pop back up, there we are. So Bobby Lee wanted to know, Erin, if you can share some creative ways about diversifying income, even with a small amount of subscriptions.
For sure. The most successful that I have seen with smaller audiences is when you think about it in terms of like models 1-to-1 and 1-to-many, the more access that somebody has to you, the higher that you can charge. You know, if you're doing a consulting, a coaching, or any type of just very high impact access to you type of work, and I'm obviously just generalizing here because I don't know the specifics of this person's business / content they create, but the less access that people have to you, the less of a price that they're likely to pay for the service, right? If there was, 700 people in a program that I was running, I'm not going to be able to charge as much as I could if there was one person in a program that I was running and it was a one-on-one thing. So for my clients in particular, I already had, I'm not going to say a huge audience. I had about 20,000 subscribers when I started my business, but I started very much doing just the one-on-one coaching. And like I said, because they get more access to me, there's more value in that. I could charge obviously a higher price. Some of the programs I run now, my one-on-one coaching was a few $1,000s. Some of the programs I run now are a few $100s because I have 150, 200 people in these programs at a time. And so the clients that I've worked with that do have smaller audiences, the more, I guess, access that people can have to you, even if you run smaller workshops, if you run smaller programs, that's the best way to make a higher amount of money in the beginning with a smaller audience.
And Dave has another question for you, Erin. So how often do you run your group classes and what is your platform of choice for those classes and why?
Yeah, really great question. So I run my programs in combination with Teachable and Facebook. So for the group community aspect, I do it just in a Facebook group. And then the actual content that I put out is on a platform called Teachable. There's lots of these course hosting platforms, not like Skillshare or any of those, because they are actually, your content is owned by Skillshare, but the ones where you still own your content and you can put that out to a larger audience and it's very neat and organized. I use a platform called Teachable, but there's multiple ones out there. And with sorry, what was the first part of the question?
How often do you run your group classes?
Yeah, so it just depends. Like I have a program that's a 6-month long program, which is a real A to Z of business building a personal brand program. And I run that once a year, but I have smaller programs that are just really specific to one kind of area. Like I have one, we were talking in the beginning about audience growth and audience engagement. That's something that I have put a lot of love and attention into with my own business. And so I'm running a program at the moment that's just 4 weeks long. That is, that. And I'll run that a couple of times a year, maybe. So it just depends on the type of program. Sometimes I do like the one-off classes or the one-off events. Those are really popular as well. A lot of people love those because obviously they're such high demand. It's kind of the scarcity around it just being a one-off thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just really depends on the program.
Cool. Now this one might be for you, Farid, or you, Erin, if you want to, kind of give your thoughts as well. You're more than welcome to pop in with any of these questions. So Becky wants to know, what are your thoughts on making and producing podcasts alongside releasing screen content, which is obviously also something that Change does?
I'll just quickly go on this one. So I think it's good. I like it. I love having a podcast. It brings in a whole bunch of interesting things. One is that not only does it give the audience more content, but it also lets us talk to creators, expand our network as well. So I like having that there, but we don't typically recommend, unless your channel is all about the podcast, mixing in a lot of things like podcast with, other types of content, and just basically throwing it all in one place. We gave that example, I think maybe yesterday we were talking about it, where these creators who are typically putting in a lot of different content and a lot of different formats into their channel can sometimes divide up the audience or fracture the audience a little bit, because some people just might like your vlogging, but if you then all of a sudden you add a podcast to it, it might not be the same style. So yeah, podcasts can definitely be great in terms of audience development and selling more of your product and, other revenue models. And if you can do it, I'd recommend having a look at it, but careful about how you lump them all together. Okay. Erin, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so I do have both the podcast and the YouTube channel, and I do agree with you very much that I think they do need to be two totally separate things. They need to have their own separate intentions. So I do mostly interviews similarly to the boys on my podcast, and it's a really great way to collaborate, reach new audiences, because every time I interview someone, they obviously share it with their audience. But I have seen a lot of people who just take, say, the audio from their YouTube video and put it on their podcast, and that generally I don't find works as well. So if it's in the beginning, you don't have a team, you're just starting out, I would say just probably choose one so that you can put 100% effort into it. And then later as you grow, it's probably, you know, a good idea if you wanted to do them both, but you don't want to be splitting your attention and time.
We have a few questions that might have like quite in-depth answers. So I'm going to try and go for the ones that are like a little bit high level, and then we'll get to the in-depth ones. But Erin, Elizabeth wanted to know if you have a particular membership platform that you recommend.
Yeah, so I actually host my membership on a platform called MemberSpace. It's a plugin that goes directly into Squarespace. I really like this because obviously it has all of my own branding. Teachable's a bit different. You can customize the colors, but it still looks like Teachable. So my course, separate to my membership, has its own feel. But my membership, because it's built right into my website, which is hosted on Squarespace, it has the exact same feel as the rest of my website. And the plugin that I use, which basically hides a lot of the content to only those with accounts, is called MemberSpace. And it's very, very easy to use. I'd recommend it highly.
Cool. And back to you, Fred. Are you available for consultations? And if so, how would one go about making appointments with you or the Changer team?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of private consultations with brands and creatives all around the place. So you can email Changer directly, and they'll shoot it to me. So hello, HELLO @changerstudios, CHANGERSTUDIOS.com.
Cool.
Not .com.
I've just put that in the chat function for anybody
Perfect.
who wants that.
So just shoot that through, and that'll filter through to me. And yeah, absolutely, we definitely consult.
Great. Now we'll get into a couple of more deeper questions. We've got so many questions today. So when one of your older videos goes viral, so that went viral years ago, how long can you earn residuals from your content on average? Does that make sense?
It's funny because you've basically framed it from like that traditional. It's a very good question. Like, how long will it earn money for?
Yeah.
I think is what you're asking. It's one of the good things about YouTube. Like I mentioned on the first day, is your back catalog is a big deal.
Yep.
Like you go and enjoy it. Like when I first saw Erin's channel, I didn't look at the new content. I went back and looked at all the back catalog and got a good feel of how it was, and I'm really engaged by that back catalog of content. And that can always earn money, and you can actually turn it on, especially as new revenue sources become available through YouTube. You can go back and apply them to old videos, for example. And depending on the different length and the structure of it, you can apply a couple of different ways. The advertising, for example, works. What you can't do is maybe go back and do a brand deal on old videos, because you can't hard code a new bit of videos up into an old video. But yeah, it can typically earn money for a very long time. Also, another thing is if you have an affiliate link with an old video, like I was mentioning before, and you're selling something, especially like a product that's a bit of software or a membership, that can earn a very good return, and that can always be in a video, and that can live for like ever. Like I've seen creators who do deals with like VPNs and stuff like that, and that video is like a year old and it's still earning them money, because it's just, people are clicking on those links and still using those codes to send them money.
So there isn't like a time frame that YouTube will say, oh, your video's been up for 5 years. Even if it's still popular and it's still getting engagement, you'll still get the residuals from that.
Well, it's not, no, it's direct advertising. Yeah, that's what happens. It's a percentage of the ad spend on your video comes to you.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll continue. But the only thing is YouTube can change their policy at any time, and the environment can change at any time. So yes, it could still be monetized, but they can change that. Or if suddenly, we're no longer allowing videos with the color yellow in it, that could be something they say, and then demonetize all those videos. So typically it's not that nuts. They don't do it like that, but it can happen. But Erin, have you got any stories about monetization that you want to chat about?
Yeah, definitely. I actually wanted to say something there, because I have, obviously, as I mentioned, a membership, and basically the way that I sell that membership through my YouTube channel is via a funnel. Like I have a freebie that people can download from the videos that I mention, and then that leads them into a series of emails, which ultimately sells them into the membership program. Just a kind of value add there. But recently, because obviously a lot of work from home, starting business content went really quite popular because of everything that had happened. One of my videos, which was how to create an ebook, from I think it was maybe 2 years ago, started getting extremely popular again. And not only did it actually start making money from obviously the ads, but I went back to that video and optimized it with the comment section and the description section to get people to sign up for my new funnel or my new freebie. And that's just what I love about YouTube so much, is I really do look at every video like an asset, because it's not like any other platform where the content's live for maybe 24 to 48 hours and then it's gone forever. So if you're promoting something, it's highly unlikely people are going to access that later on. Whereas because of the search features with YouTube and the lifespan that a piece of content has, every time you put something out there, it's able to be promoting you, your brand, and your business for forever pretty much. So even if it's not through a brand deal necessarily, like I said, just simply going and putting the comments of sign up for my free training got me so many more signups directly through that 2-year-old video this month.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of leads into another question. So how much should people be expecting to make from YouTube ads?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I had a really good month again, because obviously just the type of content I do is really relevant to everything that's going on this month. And I think I'll check my analytics. YouTube was actually just down before, but I think I got about 2 million minutes of watch time or hours of watch time or something like that, which was about $2,000. So comparatively to what I make in the rest of my business, it is not big, but like that's just an idea. I'm trying to bring the analytics up. YouTube's down. That's
yeah. It actually before we go on, it actually went down for a while. All the videos stopped serving.
I know. I just put a video out as well, but I had 400,000 views this month, which is much higher than I usually get on my channel, which equated to about $1,900.
Yeah.
The revenue model it's not just flat. It doesn't like the same thing applies to every video. So every market has a different rate. They're like CPMs, basically how much you get per 1,000 views, which is shared between YouTube and the creator. But every market's different. There are higher earning markets like the US and Australia and Germany and Europe. And then lower earning markets, such as like India and some countries in Asia as well. So depending on where your videos are popular will depend on how much money you get. Some creators, most creators will look at the ad revenue as like icing on the cake, cherry on top, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's just a little bit extra because it's not depending. So it's really great. Oh, I have a great month to get $2,000-3,000. A lot of creators, most of it is like $2,000-3,000, a couple of $1,000s a year if it's a good channel. But if you're a really good creator and you've aimed very smartly at the right markets and you time your videos very well, like, in terms of like leading up to the Christmas and stuff where the CPMs are very high, you can do $30,000-40,000 in a video. And I've seen that happen, and I couldn't believe when I first saw the stats, but I have seen it, but it's a very, very, very much exception rather than the rule.
Yeah.
Expect a very small, very lumpy amount of money to come from ad revenue until you're in quite the high end of YouTube creation.
Yeah, just to add to that, because obviously I was saying like this month, just with everything that's going on, I think the channel has been quite high. My average before that was about $500 a month that I would be making from the YouTube videos. And that's with, and I think also I have quite a high CPM because of just business content, a lot of software and stuff. Yeah. So I know a lot of friends in the beauty industry, is very, very low. Like it's depending on the competition in that industry as well. Business is not super popular on YouTube. So
yeah, that's a very good point. Like, the industry really does make a difference. And what Erin's earning a month is, channels 3, 4, 5 times their size would also earn that much in different areas.
Yeah. And just going back to that kind of comment you made on like the high and low earning markets, we do actually have a specific question about, I think you might have answered this in maybe one of the older videos we've done this week, but can you deliberately target your YouTube product to a specific geographic location? So obviously on Facebook, you can target countries, you can target cities, like you can get quite specific.
But that's advertising you talked about, right?
It says your YouTube product. So I guess your YouTube video.
So you can't tell the system where you want it to be served to in the country, but you can create content that was more likely to be served in different areas. So for example, that's why I was talking about Google Trends the other day, right? You look at what trends in certain markets at certain times. So, we have a creator who has like maybe a gardening channel. And if you time it right and you figure out like, oh, a crop that'll grow typically very well in America coming into summer, you put your videos there, it's typically going to be searched for people in America because that's a crop coming to summer. So it's about the trends. So look at the trends in the individual market and try to identify what they are. And if you build videos that would work alongside those trends of what people are typically searching for in that market, you typically go out to that market. But you can't tell YouTube, I only want to be served to the US or the UK or wherever it is, because most creators will have quite a diverse range of following, often one primary, but there will be a diverse range. But Erin, do you want to give any insights into that as well?
Yeah, so I agree with you. Unless you're targeting a specific event that's happening in a particular country, there's absolutely no way that I've been able to control. I mean, generally for most content, unless it's super niche, is going to be mostly the US, UK, obviously following after that. And then, you know, after that, it just really depends. Like I have a lot of European and in the sort of Asia Pacific region, but I just think that unless, your content's specific to a particular area, I know what you mean with Facebook. It does make it very easy when you are trying to get your content out to people, because I've used Facebook ads as well. You can target that specific person, but I think the best way to make your YouTube channel targeted is through the type of content that you put out. So making sure that you know who the audience is that you're trying to speak to. And if you do want to target a specific geographical location, then make sure it's really obvious that that's the case, that what your content is covering. Like I think you spoke to Jenny yesterday, like obviously her content is covering a specific area. But it's really just about trying to make your content really resonate with the type of people that you're targeting to, because there's no way to control it analytically.
We can't really stress enough how important the audience and audience development is.
Oh yeah, God.
Now, Erin, Paul wants to know what your best online business is and why. I'm assuming he means potentially, and Paul, please feel free to clarify in the chat function in terms of revenue earned, because he's also followed up to ask what kind of income you're making from, he doesn't say specifically from YouTube, but obviously that can be the question you might not want to answer. He has just followed up to say, no, that I'm not quite sure if that is relevant to this particular question. So we'll just say, what is your best online business and why?
Yeah, so this is probably not the answer that necessarily you were expecting, but for me, it really is a matter of kind of what I enjoy doing the most, and that just so happens to be the most profitable thing in my business. So for me in particular, the thing that I enjoy doing the most is the more longer term group coaching programs, because I get to know the students so well. I really get to see them thrive. And as corny as it does sound, like it really does change their lives in certain ways, because they go from someone who's maybe working a job they hate and then able to have a successful business online. So that I have a program called the Simply Business Academy. And that is something, like I said, I run once a year. It's a small, intimate group of people. They pay a few $1,000s for that. And ultimately it's helping them to build that online business. So that is one of the most profitable programs that I do have, alongside my one-on-one coaching, because I've been doing it for so long. You know, I did start a lot lower to where I am now, but because I have been doing it for so long now, my one-on-one coaching is a little bit of an investment, but I like having those deep conversations, those deep relationships with people. And then obviously I was really excited to do the events, but that again, I'm not sour about it at all. No, it's fine. But so I'm absolutely happy to share like how much my business sort of makes, because I talk about it pretty openly online anyway, because it obviously is part of my message.
Great.
So when I started my YouTube channel the first year in 2014, I made $0 and 0 cents. And that was the case for the first 2.5 years that I was on YouTube. I actually didn't even really know much about advertising or think to advertise. So like Fred was saying, like I really just focused in the first few years on audience development. I actually didn't monetize until 2017. And like I said, I started my YouTube channel in 2014. But then in the first year, I was able to make just over $100,000 from one-on-one coaching. That's all I did that year. And in 2019, I think I should know this because I just did my tax return. I think it was about $490,000 that I made from all of those different sources. Yes. So I just wanted to like give you the preface of kind of where it came from, because this is not like I've just started a YouTube channel and now I have a $500,000 business. It's like I didn't make a cent for quite a few years in this, and it's now 6 years later. And obviously that's the position with all kind of what the work that I put in where I'm at now.
And when you talk about those different sources, that is like your YouTube, your podcast, your, you know, online courses, like, are there any other strands that we should have covered?
Not really. I mean, there's obviously like one-off things, like I have been paid to do speaking and stuff in the past, and there's just the odd random opportunity that may come up. But for the most part, the most sustainable sources of income for me are very much like the programs like this that I run, you know, the group programs, the one-on-one coaching that I do, and then the membership itself. The membership is a great option. It's just not one that I ever recommend people start with, because it is quite reliant, because it's quite a small investment, because, you know, you're not going to charge, well, some people do, but for the most part, it's only, you know, $20 or $30 a month. And so that is going to be reliant on quantity, for that. So the easiest way with a smaller audience, I would say, is the more intimate stuff that you can do.
Great. Now, Bobby Lee, for you, Fred, wants to know if you can go into more depth about aggregators and how do they work?
You're talking about the people who buy our content. I think that's where I mentioned it. Typically people who do, like, you know, travel video, or they've got a lot of B-roll footage they can sell. There are people out there who buy that. It's not, unless you're doing a lot of it, it's not a lot of money. But yeah, you know, people, I know companies that we talk to who are interested, YouTubers who do like a little lifestyle shots. They basically take that, they wrap it up, they sell it for music videos, they sell it for promotional videos, that kind of thing. And then they pay a monthly fee to the creator, just keep providing that. It can be a couple of $100 to a couple of thousands. The ones who are producing a ton of content can get into tens of thousands per month, but you'd be needing to make a very, very large amount of content. So someone like Devin Supertramp, tons of lifestyle content, tons of action content, can sell a lot of his B-roll at a higher rate to those type of guys. But generally, most people, unless you're really into that lifestyle, travel, lifestyle, I think we find it pretty hard to get that level of extra footage that could be bought.
And Bobby Lee wants to know if you can recommend some aggregators. No? Not
like the, I have to talk to you specifically, and then I could maybe chat to you about which ones might work for you.
Okay. Hopefully Bobby Lee can take that and maybe come and chat to you. So we've got a couple more questions. One was actually from I think yesterday, so we're just gonna make sure we answer this one. So what do you think about premiering on a Facebook page or event for launching a short film or a web series?
So the premiere function, relatively new within the last year or so, has come on. I'll explain how that works. So basically you can set a premiere that tells people that this video will be out at this time, and they can, I think, already start commenting and liking it before it's even released. There was a lot of mixed feedback on that because people were getting really mixed results with it. But a creator we work with called Mars from the Amazing, is a great animator, made a really good comment. He said, if you're going to premiere it in proximity to your release, like very close to your release, because otherwise what happens, people see it and they go, oh, it's not going to be available for another week. And then they just get irritated because don't forget there's so much content out there, there's so much choice, people will typically forget and move on. So the premiere function kind of works well where if you're about to release it in like a couple of hours or a day, you know, say, oh, it's going to be released now, and you can build up some energy around it. So use the premiere within the proximity. And I really like that idea, and it's worked really nicely for him. So yeah, that's a really smart way to do it. I'm interested, have you used the premiere function much, Erin?
No, but very similarly to when I do, say, lives or any type of live masterclass webinar training, I try to promote it as close to as possible because people simply forget. I used to do 10 days out, and even that was too long. People just, they'll sign up for something, they'll get excited for something, and then, like you said, 10,000 other things happen in that time span. So the closer, if you are going to heavily promote something prior to it coming out, 24 hours is probably what I would say to stick to.
Cool. And Paul has asked, Powderfinger is using an exclusive to YouTube for their reunion. Do you guys have any thoughts about being exclusive to YouTube and how that works?
I don't know if they're doing it because currently YouTube is just, there's so much focus on it, especially where we are in COVID world. I think like the way, like even like the concepts that are going online and the virtual concepts they're created with, like, you know, when you're talking about the multi-million viewership you're getting for, you know, fake, not like character singing, you know, it's interesting to see how people are doing stuff on the platforms. I don't know. I think if you're big enough, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That might work nicely because you've got such an enormous reach, right? Like one of the positive things about, we've changed, like we're an events-based company effectively, right? So when COVID came along, that was tricky for us, but we'd already done a bunch of these online events. We converted them all over. And when we convert, what we found was that it had the effect that people were actually like the online ones. When we asked them what they liked, they said, "Oh, we love online. We'd rather, you know, we'd love to be more engaged online." But I don't know if that's a symptom of where we are right now, and that's what people are just thinking. And if they were free to roam anywhere, where they would still think that. So I think in this environment, it really depends. It's a pretty captive, like the people are here, but I don't know if that would work if everything was completely back to normal again. I don't know. What do you reckon, Aaron?
Yeah, I agree. I think that when people's options are limited, they're more likely to just settle in this circumstance. So I think that, but particularly about, I haven't actually seen the thing about exclusive to YouTube, but I don't know if that's something that's more an opportunity for them, whether that's a smart option for, you know, like you said, I think it's when they're so heavily in demand and they have options, and it's probably a matter of, you know, who's got the biggest pockets at that stage. I don't know what the deals are that are going on behind that, but to me, it's like, if it's an opportunity, it's an opportunity. I don't know if that's necessarily something to think of when you're like, even, you know, I don't think I would even consider that at this stage.
Because part of it would bring a big audience with them, so they could be doing separate brand deals. They integrate their brand stuff into the concert stuff, for example, they're doing online. So they wouldn't have to depend necessarily on the ad model within YouTube. They could use the external one, you know. And if they're going to bring a couple of million people along with it, that could be big money for, especially like at the time people are watching. It could be very, very good earning potential on the platform. But you'd have to have the power to do that. Otherwise, could just miss. Yeah.
And I'm really keen to kind of, obviously we're kind of coming to the end here. So I'm keen to kind of end on this question because I did think it was really great. And if I don't think we've awarded a Changer College Pass to James Lingwood yet, but I think this question is great. And I think it can also apply to you, Erin. But he wants to know, Fred, how did you get started in the online world? And I think for Erin, that would be great kind of to understand, obviously, because you've talked about you didn't make any money for the first couple of years. Like what kind of made you make that decision, which was obviously quite trying for the first couple of years?
Yeah. Fred, you can go first if you want to.
I've been in the online world for like ever. I get my background is, and I'm actually I did like law and business at uni. But even when I started my first company in 1999, and it was a digital media company, and we grew that, and I was more focused on a whole range of digital media. And then I sold that when I sort of saw what was happening with video, and we started doing more and more videos. So that's how I actually moved into video. So I've been a digital producer for a long time, and then specifically into video after that. And especially when we saw how online video was developing, we spent a lot of time and effort really working in that space to develop both models for brands and then models also for creators as well. So that's how we got into that area, but it comes from a fairly long history in digital media generally. And then we just started doing these pioneering, that doesn't sound as epic as that, but just these bring programs into this space just to test it and see how they all work. And that's how we sort of came across the guys at YouTube and Google when they saw us doing that. And that's how we built it from there.
So I actually studied business and marketing at uni and was very much one of those students that didn't want to go get a job. I was very adamant about kind of doing my own thing, starting my own business, but just had absolutely no idea. I mean, I initially wanted to do events, but by the time I'd taken all the events class was like, I'm not starting at the bottom and doing all the internships. It just didn't seem like what I wanted to do. Events didn't crack up to be what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be partying all the time. But essentially I went to just one of those kind of compulsory events that you need to go to when you're studying. And one of the speakers once said like that if you want to do really anything in the digital space, entrepreneurship wise, creative wise, the very first thing that you should be doing is building your audience, building a brand, right? Getting yourself known. And I took that incredibly literally and like started my YouTube channel 2 days later. Like I still have the ticket for the event and the day of my first upload, and it was literally 2 days later. At the time I had absolutely no idea about niches, anything like that. So I just was talking about lifestyle, health, fitness, all the pretty much the only thing that I did outside of uni at the time. And then just stuck with it really with no direction until I graduated and was like, crap, now I have no job, no nothing. And then so started just a social media marketing content creation business, because obviously I had the experience with the YouTube channel and also the business degree. But then realized I absolutely hated creating content for other people. So that's when I went on sort of that path, that journey to figure out what I could do myself, and realized that I absolutely loved coaching and mentoring and wanted to teach people, kind of what I'd done about content creation, audience building, all of that stuff. And so I started my business in 2017 and haven't looked back really.
No, I think that's great. And I think that that's a really great kind of question to end on, because we're on 11 o'clock now. Just for everyone that's joined us, thank you so much for kind of joining us for this week and putting up with our technical hiccups as we've gone. For those of you that are interested in the Changer services, I've put the email address just in the chat. And for those of you who are interested in connecting with Amy Parry about our digital initiative, I've just put our general email address in there, which will reach Amy Parry as well. Because obviously the reason we've held these sessions all week, and thank you so much to Changer and certainly Erin for joining us today, is because we've launched this digital initiative. So please come and have a chat to us if you're interested in kind of putting in an application. But Erin, Fred, do you have any kind of final comments before we wrap up? It's been a long week.
Yeah, it's been very good. Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry we couldn't get into some of the more detailed stuff. We do have that within Changer College, but we also do like advanced, like Erin's part of this advanced program we're doing currently called an accelerator, where we really deep dive and we talk to experts all over the world in certain areas of how to really succeed online. So we run both programs. If you're interested in either one of them, just shoot me an email at hello@changerstudios.com and I can tell you a bit more about them. But yeah, it's been good, and I hope you found it useful. And if you have any questions generally, just shoot us an email. Happy to answer them.
And I just say I can't recommend their program enough. It's so incredibly helpful. So definitely read that.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And all of these sessions have been recorded and they'll be available on our website. We'll hope to get them up by this afternoon, but if not Monday, and they'll all be available to watch. So all 5 from the entire week. And hopefully everyone will put in incredible digital initiative applications because they've learnt from the best. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us. And that's it from us for the week. So yeah, enjoy your weekends, everybody. And thank you so much, Fred. And thank you so much, Erin. This has been great.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.